Dad, and I'll get up there and say, man, I started playing raves, so this is not a bad monitor to me, you know. The label was really a catalyst to put me out there years ago, and I haven't been doing anything on Charm City in a while because to run a label takes a lot of time, and time is something I really don't have. I spend all my time on the road. I played this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, this last week. So I'm on the road a lot. Of course, I get those questions via email all the time. What's your advice for upcoming DJs? I know one thing, it's definitely really hard for DJs to break in right now. And all I can say is practice, practice, practice. A lot of people tell me that they book me because I'm very easy to work with. I'm a good DJ, but I'm also very easy to work with, and I'm a lot of fun, and I have a good time. There's a lot of dicks out there, and people don't want to be around them. My advice is to be professional, be on time, always show up. I could probably count the amount of gigs that I missed in the last 10 years on both hands. They're far and few. And my advice is to be professional, be courteous, be grateful, and you know, respect the people that you're playing for. And they'll keep bringing you back and bringing you back and bringing you back.
When I was little, there was no electronic dance music. It just didn't exist. But I was always attracted to music without words. As I got older, the music that I became interested in was the alternative electronic bands like New Order, Depeche Mode, Skinny Puppy, all of those like harder electronic bands. And I started going to clubs when I was 16 years old, and at that time there was no house music or techno or trance, but these bands that I've been listening to, they always had remixes or dub sides, and so at these clubs they'd be playing dub versions of electronic dance music, and it was pretty much the same as the clubs are today. So that was what I was doing, and then a friend of mine said, this is great, but you gotta check out, you know, this music. It's called acid house. You're gonna love it. And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, look, I'll take you to this club. It's at Big Heart City. And I said, well, isn't that where they have the industrial night? And he said, no, this is, you go in the back door and it's in the basement and it doesn't even begin until 2 a.m. I was so blown away. I'd never heard music like this anywhere before. It was the most twisted, insane music. There was no lyrics, and the people were just fantastic. It was so different than all the other clubs where everybody was kind of posing and trying to be cool. Here it was like, none of that mattered. It was just about having fun. And I was on the dance floor and I decided this is it. This, unlike anything else I'd ever encountered, I identify with this. This is like my calling. Such a cliched thing, the DJ taking the audience on a journey. But that's what we all try to do. That's why we like books, that's why we like movies. That's why we like albums, and that's what a DJ's job is. And for me, I like to start out with something that says, this is the beginning, here we are, and then I initially bring it right down and slowly start building. It's almost like teasing, you know, because people know that it's gonna be big by the end, but you don't wanna shoot your load in the first 5 minutes. I mean, geez, it's like being on a date, you know? You don't wanna be the two-pump chump. It's like everybody's got and they're gone, you know? I'm not a big fan for gimmicks. I like to play the records that people have made, and the idea is that I'm looking for the best possible records. If it's missing something and you need somebody to sing over it, or you need bongos over it, then it's not a good record. Find a good one. Every week I go through my new records, and I'll go through some of my older ones, because I've got that crate of records. When I go out on the road, that's got to take care of, you know, 3 or 4 parties in a row, and every party's going to be different, and I'm not going to be able to play the exact same records, and so I need to know what my records sound like, where the bass comes in, where the melody line comes in, where it breaks, where things cut out, because I'm going to be working with those records intimately, and there's going to be a lot of ears listening. It's the most important thing, I think, for a DJ. Know your records. A lot of guys I don't think know their records. You know what, the best advice I could give anybody is play from your heart. I mean, this is about music, and what you play and who you are is going to define you as a DJ. Don't go out and be a clone. When I started out, this was in 1990, there was no such thing really as trance. And everybody there played house and funky breaks and music of that nature. And when I'd go to the record store and I'd be going through, this German music that was trance and progressive house that was coming out of the UK, the guys at the store used to go, "Oh, there's your pile," and they used to laugh. And they'd tease me for the music that I played. And I thought, oh, fine, so what? You guys are all playing the same record. At least I have something that I like. I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't stuck to my gut feeling as to what I felt was the best music. And I think is any DJ that's starting out, play the music that you like. That's all you can do. And you hope that other people will like it.
Coming from Chicago, I definitely have house in me completely, but I play a variation on that, and I also play some tech house and a little bit of techno. And then through most of that, I sing songs or I use effects and I layer over vocals just to sound like new sounds in the record. I started studying classical voice when I was 9, and then I did opera for 4 years in high school. And when I turned 18, I just really had to make a choice. Am I going to keep doing opera or am I going to do something else? And I was just really into house music. It was more natural for me. I wasn't going to go off and write an opera. Coming from Chicago, you kind of have to blend. They'll kind of kick your butt if you're not giving a few really good long blends in there. And they will. I mean, there's kids at parties who are like, "Why aren't you holding your mixes?" Because they want to see, you doing your thing. But some songs, they don't go together. They're not made in the same key. And that's something that I really, tend to stay away from, because I don't prepare my sets. It's all improv. You can overblend as well as underblend. So I like to try to find a balance in between the two. You have to pay attention to the crowd because it's just this circle between you and them. And they give you energy and you give it back to them. And I think that's really the goal, is to make everyone happy, including yourself. I think when I first get on, I'm always really excited, but it definitely takes a few records to get relaxed. You can ask anyone, someone who's been spinning for 15 years or 2 minutes, you have to just get into it. My favorite part is when, I've stopped overanalyzing everything and I feel really comfortable. Even if I were to make a mistake, I wouldn't stress out about it because I'm in that place where everything is just really positive. Everything just comes really naturally. A few times, you see people get naked. I mean, not just a little naked, but naked, dancing around. And part of it is really great because, people are so relaxed and so free, and I think that's pretty cool, but that's pretty crazy at the same time to me, nakedness in front of lots of other people. Vinyl, to me, will always be relevant. That little sound that's always in a record, and just manipulating records, touching records, you can't do it with a CD. I just don't like it. I like the size of a record. I like putting it on and being able to play with it. It's just fun. So much attention has been put on the drug culture that is involved in electronic music. It's really important to get out there that people really do love this music. The younger generation should really focus on, why they are going out to parties. Because every time there is a huge party that is shut down because a bunch of kids overdosed, they're jeopardizing this music for a lot of people that have been doing it for a really long time.
As a DJ, I sort of flow between any style available in electronic music. I really hate pigeonholing music. I think in electronic music, in every genre, there's top producers and top tunes, and if it'll fit into what I do, I'll do it. I'm not a DJ who bangs out really big commercial tracks. I try and ride that wave somewhere in the middle of pleasing and teaching. I like it to take a crowd away from their everyday situations with playing music that they would normally not hear, or music that inspires them. It's not the easiest job to do, it's not the easy route, but I love it like that. When I do a night, when I sort of get ready for a longer set, I usually tend to sort of tease a little bit in the first hour or two and sort of try and pick the crowd up and lock them into this groove. Like, one record would kickstart the other record, and that record would kickstart another record. And what goes on in my mind while playing it is, okay, where am I going to be in 3, 4, 5, or 6 records from now? And I just try to carefully construct that. But that obviously all has to do with the fact if your crowd reacts to you. Because if you find out that, the idea you had about the 5, 6 records and how to get where you want to go, if you find along the way that the crowd is not taking that, then obviously you have to have alternatives. I think the most important thing of a DJ is still to entertain. If you don't entertain, then you should be in your living room and just do it by yourself. Preparation is a very, very important aspect of what you do. I mean, if you don't know the energy that a record carries, if you don't know certain breakdowns, or if you're not really prepared on that level, then there's no way you can step into the arena and expect yourself to do a great job. I mean, preparation is very important. But then again, preparation can only bring you so far. I mean, in the end of the line, 1,200 people, a big sound system, and records is something else than sitting in a hotel room on a plastic turntable with which is hooked into the television. I mean, you'll never know how a certain hi-hat actually sounds, or how. And even when you're at home, I mean, a club is a club, and certain records turn into magic, and it only happens in a club, and sometimes it only happens in a certain club. I met my current girlfriend, and I try to sort of not impress her, but I try to do the man-like thing, She obviously knew I was a DJ, but I had a gig outside of Holland. It was about 8 years ago. I rented a car to go out there. It was a 6-hour drive, and I told my girlfriend that this is a great gig. I've been here before. It's like 500, 600, 700 people, and it's amazing. I'm getting paid $200, and we're gonna have a great time. And we're gonna have a hotel, and. Drove down there, and it ended up being a bar, and I DJ'd there, and there was one person dancing. And the promoter in the midst of my set left, who was going to give me the $200, which was going to be the money for the gas to drive back to Holland. so that kind of stuff happens, but that's good as well. I mean, it builds character, I think so. My advice for any upcoming DJs would be to stick what you believe in. This is not an overnight job, This is not something that you pick up and 12 months later you are, a big star. It's something that needs a lot of passion. You need to be completely passionate of what you do. You need to understand that if you start this, not everyone will succeed, and it is a tough life. I mean, I started all this because I had the vision that music and whatever would give me freedom, and it does in your mind, but it needs passion, and it needs work. You need to work for this. There's a lot of things that will suffer. Your social life will suffer, but hey, if you're still up for it after what I just said, then it is the greatest job on the planet to me.
For me, DJing is not about playing the hottest tracks or playing the hottest parties or having the best white labels or whatever. For me, a true DJ is all about the delivery, is all about the timing of that track, playing that right track at that right time in order to get the crowd moving. My motto is, your body won't move if you don't feel the groove. I don't go in to the music store looking for a techno track. I don't go in the music store looking for a house track. Whatever suits my fantasy at that time I wanted to be out. As far as me DJing, I change every 6 to 8 months. You know, I'm always constantly evolving with the music, constantly trying to create my own sound, taking people on musical journeys, DJing 4 to 5 hours so I can be with a chance to tell my story instead of DJing 1 hour, 2 hours. For me, it's just warming up. It's actually an interesting task going in and night out, not knowing what to expect, not knowing if they're gonna be with your set or not with your set. Going in, basically manipulating the people to dance to something that they normally wouldn't dance to. You know, that's the challenge for me. That's the excitement that gets to me. After 2 hours, if they still with it, then it's ready. Then it's ready time to go. My uncle was a drummer, and he used to play drums for Rufus and Shaka Khan and stuff like that on the live performances. And being around that atmosphere really shaped me. I mean, my aunt, she dated Smokey Robinson back in the high school days, so I listened to a lot of vocal stuff, you know what I mean, like Temptations, Four Tops, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, you know, the Spinners and all that type of stuff. But at the same time, I kind of took the instrumental approach to music. I started out playing the flute, so for me, that's where my sense of melody comes from. I played drums in the past, so that's where my sense of rhythm comes from. It's like everything now is so electronic that all you gotta do is push a button, and it's done for you. When, you know, that's cool, I like that too, but at the same time, I still love the human feel. I mean, I still make my music with the 10 fingers. I don't rely on samples. For me, vinyl has saved my life, to be honest. I got disco versions, as they were called back in the days in the 80s. Who would have known that, you know, 20 years later, I'm playing vinyl that a lot of people thought it was going to be obsolete. Back in the days when I used to start mixing, I used to use the fingers on the turntables and try to slow it up a little, or, you know, and you can hear that in your mixing. So now, for me, I'm such a spontaneous mixer that sometimes I don't even cue it up. Sometimes I kind of just push off and kind of just work the pitch with until you get that solid blend. Imagine me going out on my very first professional gig, first time in Europe, first time in Switzerland. You know, flight gets canceled. I had to take another flight to get there, take a train to get there. The promoter's mother had to come pick me up from the train station to drive me to the club. And here I am 2 hours late with no records. You can't get worse than that. So here I am playing people's records that I have no clue of. They have a lot of European releases, and there's not a lot of things that I'm familiar with. So of course I trained record a couple of times. I'm not gonna even say that I didn't. I mean, the first things I would tell young up-and-coming DJs is basically, I mean, stay true to yourself. Stay true to what you are all about doing. Don't go out and buy records because you heard the DJ yesterday play it. Just like John Coltrane, you would hear his saxophone, and you would hear it, and you automatically would know it's him. You hear Miles, you automatically know it's him. It's the same thing with DJing. You have to be able to be distinctive from everybody else in order to stand out. You can't just jump on the bandwagon and say you want to DJ, and, you know, 6 months later you want to, you know, have your first gig. You know, it don't work like that. You know, you gotta know your music. You know, you gotta be a purist first and foremost. You just can't all of a sudden and just go out and buy a DJ in the box. It's much more work than that. You know, you right here you're looking at since 1985, and I still haven't hit my peak. You know, and it's a lifelong process for me.
When I was a kid, I really wanted to learn how to make music. I was listening to a lot of hip hop, a lot of like electronic style beats, and I wanted to learn how to make those tracks. And there was basically nothing. There was no way for me to find out. Like, nobody knows how to DJ. You're lucky if you see a DJ setup when you're a little kid, period. So when I came up for the idea for this DVD, I mean, it started out as a really small idea where I said, hey, let's just make a tutorial so we can, you know, show people what's going on, like how to actually mix records and put it all together and make a set and, you know, get their name out there. It just started growing and growing and growing, and I got more and more people involved. And basically, I just wanted to make a source of information for people who are kind of into the same things that I was into, and just make it as informative and entertaining as possible. And I just want to make something that I would have liked to see when I was 16 years old. I started DJing because I wanted to do something musical that didn't involve having to rely on other musicians, other people like to jam together or anything, you know, just something where you can sit down and just rock it by yourself and like get good and really hone your skills and just be like a one-man band, you know? The reason I think club music and electronic music is successful is because when you go to see a band, every song is going to sound like that band. When you go to see a DJ, it's all the one best song of every band put together. DJs are super nerds who collect music that they like, and they just get all the best music that they found over like the last whatever 10 years that they've been DJing, and they play it for you all at once, and that's why you always freak out. I don't like to classify anything that I make or play. I just like it to be funky, electronic, and have some nice beats going on. Anything like that. It doesn't have to be techno, it doesn't have to be house. My first DJ gig, I had no idea what was going on. I showed up to the gig. The mixer was like from outer space. It was nothing like the little crappy mixer I had at home. I had to ask the DJ ahead of me, like, what is going on with this thing, because it had fucking knobs all over the place and I didn't know where the cue was. I didn't know that you had a monitor when you play out. I was totally green. I don't think that it really matters what you do as far as like touching the records or spinning the pin or you know, riding the pitch. All that really matters is, does it sound good? Are the people dancing? Is the mix coming out okay? Are you train wrecking all over the place? If you're not and it sounds good, then you could be touching your ass on the turntable and it wouldn't matter. DJing is fun. It's fucking fun. That's it.
I started actually playing live in bands and stuff when I was a teenager. I played a lot of dub and reggae and world beat type music. After my last band, I said, you know, screw it, I didn't want to be in a band situation anymore. Went into the studio and basically, you know, was a one-man band, doing things the way I wanted them done and getting things done and not having to deal with other people's flakiness. I like to play good tracks. I don't like to pre-plan things too much. Usually I'll just pack my crate filled with music that I'm really into at the moment. I've been doing deep, soulful house music for the last few years. I like to incorporate the best of electronic music world with live elements as well. I like to think of myself as a smooth, pretty clean mixer. I like to just kind of create, you know, a vibe and a story with my sets. I like to, whether it's percussive or whether it's deep or vocal or minimal or kind of funky or, you know, anywhere in that realm, it's just always, I keep it soulful and I like to try to keep it, to just keep it smooth. As far as mixing style goes, I wouldn't say I have a particular style. I like EQs because I like to, you know, I like to take certain frequencies in and out for sure. And while the songs are blending, it's definitely nice and convenient to have. But I'm not really too much of a trickster, I wouldn't say. I definitely like to work with the crowd and you know, vibe with the crowd, but I don't try to really please the crowd necessarily too much or have them, my plan isn't really to have them screaming. That's not really necessarily the kind of music I do. I just, you know, try to create a vibe on the floor and have hopefully people experience something emotionally that's positive rather than just bang your head party. I usually really like to bring a vocalist along with me to maybe sing a few of the songs that I've done. I think that creates a great vibe. It kind of breaks it up in the middle and then you can kind of almost start again. producing my own original stuff, I like to be very spontaneous about that. I start from the ground up, really. I start with my beats, focus from the bass line, and then focus up, whether it be adding some chords or some melodies. I really like to create a lot of textures and subtleties with my productions. A lot of times I won't really know what I'm doing, you know, till I'm halfway through the track, and then I decide I want to bring in a trumpet, or I want to add some more guitar here, you know, more percussion there. If you're producing, write music that, you know, that comes from your soul, comes from your heart. If you're playing music, it's the same thing, you know. If people want to start DJing or start sharing music in that way, you know, don't try to please the crowd. There's no real formula or format to it. There's no rules. That's the beauty of this music. There's no rules, you know. You can really take it where you want to.
Before we met, I was producing hip-hop, this major label, typical major label crap. I mean, I had messed around with some house stuff before, but never really hip-hop was my main thing. And then I met him, and he was into that whole scene. He had to convince me that people would pay for just beats. I was like, no.
I was like, no, we can sell this, man. People like beats. And he's like, what are you, crazy?
I was like, we need vocals. Nobody's gonna buy without vocals. He's like, no, it's the whole underground, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other, you know.
We keep running into each other at parties, and every time I saw him, I knew he was producing professionally, and I knew he knew what was up, so I kind of was on his case about, hey, how do you make this sound? Where do you get these beats? Where do you get these records? Because I was only in really the dance realm, so I knew where to get, you know, drum and bass records and house records and that kind of stuff, and he knew where to get all the breaks and the hip-hop records, and since he had a really strong hip-hop background, he knew where all these breaks that were in the electronic music, where they were from. So I would say, hey, listen to these sounds. How do we do this?
And I'd be like, that's James Brown, what are you talking about?
No, James Brown, we knew that, but he would laugh and be like, oh, that's Apache, or that's, you know, and